0. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You gonna help? I'm gonna talk to people. What should I say?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I was gonna do a question and answer on sustainable living.
Well, I can try.
Okay.
I mean, if I hear if you can, whatever. I don't.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get
I was
some
going to.
questions and we can figure this out. So, hi, I'm Donita Fogelman of prairiedusttrail.com. We are getting ready. We're going to have noises in the background. So, I mean, it's a farm, family, house. I'm tucked in here under the stairs with my little stars background, which isn't, yeah. A lot of people think one thing about it, but it was actually for another thing. But hey, it works for that too. So anyway, I've got the Sustainable Self-Sufficiency Retreat coming up March 4th and 5th, and I've had a few questions, and I've got my junk all over the place. Uh, and I thought, well, I'll just pop on live, see if anybody shows up. Facebook might be a little mad at me today. I went a little overboard on TikTok videos this morning, and some of them were a little political. So, uh, Facebook might not show it to anybody for a few years. Mrs. Deal, hello. Got somebody on there. You already know all this stuff, so I can't imagine that you have got any questions about sustainable living. You and your husband have a nice little place, and you're already good at this. Um, so we've got this retreat coming up, the Sustainable Self-Sufficiency Retreat, that is a live virtual event that Catherine's going to get on here with me, our oldest, and she's going to be comic relief because I'm just really not funny. And I can get too serious and too deep sometimes. And so we really need that comic relief. So pray that they get back and get settled in. Her father-in-law just passed away, so they're off taking care of things and helping her mother-in-law right now. So hopefully they'll make it back and be able to have her in there helping me out. Because, yeah, I might get a little boring by myself. Anyway, this is a little version of Prairie Dust Trail conference that we're going to be having in the fall in Woodward. I wanted some practice and to just kind of see, you know, what we've got here. I know that there's a lot of people interested in this stuff because the YouTube videos have exploded in the last few years with people looking up stuff about homemade cooking, canning, gardening. We've had a lot of people I know in our area that have been moving out here from the coasts, from both sides, all up and down the plains. I know people who have moved from the East Coast or the West Coast and trying to get away from some of the craziness out there and get to a more rural area and hoping for a simplified life. And prairie living is wonderful, but sometimes it's not as simple as you think it's going to be. It's simple in the thought that it should be simple, but there can be a lot to it. So there's some people get moving out to the farm and they buy their little piece of land and they buy them some animals and they get their garden going and they end up in the thick of it and completely overwhelmed with what they're doing before they know it. They don't know where to get the help. They don't know where resources are in the area. And definitely in something that is completely different than what they've ever done before. So, what I'm bringing to the table is 5 generations of Oklahoma Panhandle pioneers. I, I'm not going to say that I know everything. I definitely don't. I do not have a green thumb. The children tell me to stay away from the plants usually. I can get some house plants to grow. I've got ivy. That's one. mother's tongue. I don't know what else that's called, but I've been given some that I wish would die and it wouldn't. So I can keep some things growing, but I'm telling you, if a tomato plant makes one little tomato, I'm having somebody take a picture of me with it. So, living sustainably doesn't mean that you have to do all the things. Having a garden is an awesome idea, and everybody should be trying to grow some of their own food. Uh, but there's more to it. As all of the green thing and the climate stuff has been coming out, and we changed from paper sacks to plastic sacks at the grocery store and all these different things. Uh, and the children are learning about all this stuff at the schools, and I'm just like, wait. Great grandma and great granny were doing this whole sustainable thing a long time ago. The idea of reuse, repurpose, that's been a normal activity out here. If you buy a tub of something, be it cottage cheese or whatever, it's really hard for some of us out here to not save it, to to throw it away, because there's so many things you can use that tub for. That's recycling. When you reuse it and you reuse it and you reuse it until you can't reuse it anymore, yeah, that's the best kind of recycling. So we really need to get back to that thought process and say, how was things going on earlier? So I've talked to women out here that grew up in the 30s and the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, and I've heard them tell their stories. And they usually have a glimmer and a glint and tears and a smile remembering those memories. They lived in a tiny house, and the tiny house thing's popular now. They ate very simple homemade foods. They usually made their own clothes, most of them anyway, and they grew their own food, or they bartered with somebody locally, or whatever it was, but they lived very, very simple. They had very little. And so the idea that they needed to change their lives to be more green, and husband's going to answer the phone now, so there's going to be that in the background. Maybe he'll get up and move. Anyway, I mean, they were living green. They were living simple. But then you had those people that came out of that and they said, I want better for my children. So then you have the baby boomers who come up with this idea that I need to have a life that's better than what my folks had. And then they want to make a better life for their folks, or for their children. And so you have these generations that have come along. I need a better life than what my parents had. I need a better life than what my parents had. I need a better life than what my parents have. And what's actually happening to the lifestyle is, if you think about all the stress and anxiety that people have nowadays, even young people, the quality of life, while they may have more stuff, their actual quality of life has gone down. They don't have that twinkle in their eye, that smile on their face that those women had talking about growing up in the Great Depression. The kids nowadays don't have that. They're traumatized. At least they believe they are. And in some senses, trauma is different for all of us. They're anxious, they're worried, they're fearful, they're depressed. I didn't even know what depression was. Not that I was never depressed as a child, who knows? But I didn't even know what it was until after I had my 5th child. And the doctor's like, Donita, I think you're depressed. I'm like, I can't be depressed. I have got a wonderful husband, 5 beautiful children. I can't be depressed. And he's like, no, Donita, it's a chemical thing. Got that straightened out. Yay. But nowadays, everybody is struggling with this. And I think there's more to it. I think there's a lot more to it. And we've got a lot of clutter. And it's clutter in the house, it's clutter on the waistline, it's clutter everywhere. And we're distracted, we've got short attention spans. And I think there's some things in the last couple of years that have just kind of woke some people up and said, hey, I kind of miss that. Maybe I would like to make my own soap. That might be kind of cool. You know, they're learning about these terrible chemicals that are in the products that we buy at the stores, and they're like, "Oh, I'd like to get away from these chemicals." You know, and everybody's allergic to stuff now. I only remember, I think, 2 girls in school I grew up with that really had allergy issues. Nowadays, everybody's got them. I've got them. My children have got them. We've all got allergies. Everybody's got, you know, and it's not just a seasonal thing. Some people are allergic to gluten. Some people are allergic to corn. Some people are allergic to, you know, who knows what. Everybody, and maybe we were allergic to things back then and we didn't realize. I know I've got one allergy that I probably had all along and just didn't realize it, but the simpler life, I think, makes a difference. So I'm not seeing anybody pop up. If you're interested, if you watch the replay, comment replay, and if you pop on here, I don't know what Facebook is doing to me right now, so it's hard to say. And we do kind of have a snowy, ice, stormy type thing. Oklahoma can't decide what it wants to do. So we do have a thing going on outside that may mess with my internet. At this point, it looks okay, but you never know about these things, right? The satellites don't quite reach us for some reason out here sometimes. Yeah. Anyway, not going to go there. Let's see. Let's pull this up. There I am. It doesn't say anybody's on there. So Facebook will probably show this a couple of days from now, and somebody will see it then. There we go. So, let's see. What are we going to do? Okay, so on prairie-trail.com/virtual.html. I guess we shouldn't forget the HTML. And I'll probably put it in the comments or something so that you know where it's at. We've got this sustainable self-sufficiency retreat that we're doing March 4th and 5th. It'll be about 5 hours a day, a couple hours in the morning, about 3 hours in the afternoon. And I've got handouts and all kinds of stuff. We're going to learn about preparedness, being prepared for anything. That sounds ridiculous, right? How on earth can you be prepared for everything? Well, some of that's in your heart. Definitely. And then there's ways that you can help your family be prepared. March 4th and 5th, what I'm trying to do is redeem that weekend. On March 6th, 2017, we had a huge fire hit. I was not home, and I had one of the children with me, and my husband and the other 5 children were home. And a terrible fire hit. And I got a text from a friend to evacuate now. And I passed that on. My family was already in the process of evacuating. And I drove 30 miles through black smoke and was able to get to town before they were able to get the 8 miles into town. We have a video. I need to get that up on the new YouTube channel. If you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, I am really trying to get stuff back up there because we're starting fresh. So, but on the blog, I'll try to put that link down there too, uh, of the fire and the children. Our oldest daughter said they were like a well-oiled machine. They went, checked things out, saw that it was really bad, come back to the house, and she said, okay, this one's going to do this one's going to do this one's going to do this. You get out, get whatever it is that you're supposed to get back in the vehicle, and we're leaving. And she said they were like a well-oiled machine. And they were so not scared or rattled by the whole situation that they videoed part of their escape driving through the fires. By the time they made it the 8 miles, I had to take her directly to the ambulance barn and get her on oxygen. And she had to take a little oxygen bottle with her uh, on evacuation for a few days. It was bad. There were millions of acres burned between Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Colorado. It was awful. And that was traumatic. But it was the communication and stuff that we had done before. And I've had people out here, you know, we've lived out here all our lives, and people out here, oh, this will never happen, that'll never happen. And they've scoffed at me for years for being a prepper. And that particular time, my family was prepared, and even better, they were emotionally more prepared than, I hate to say it, but it's true, and I don't think they would argue with me, than even our firefighters were. Our firefighters were traumatized and devastated. I mean, we were all devastated by the whole thing, but you know, praise the Lord, our home did stand, but the children watched one of our neighbors' houses blow up. So as they left, they really thought we would be coming home to ashes. And we had neighbors that lost lots of livestock, lots of animals died, lots of, it was bad. But we were prepared. And it's not that it hasn't been hard ever since. I mean, that was 2017. It's 5 years. Every single year at this time of the year, we've had fires again. And it's hard to handle. We had a fire on each side of us the other day. And I found myself getting angry. You know, like that grief, anger that you have. Just angry about it, because it's like, can't we get a break? Could we just get enough rain in 1 year to not have this? And I've had people online scoff at us and make fun of us and tell us, well, why don't you move? Well, I don't know of any place that doesn't have some kind of a natural disaster that can happen. Okay, yes, Oklahoma has fires, tornadoes, earthquakes. The only thing we don't have is a volcano, but I'm waiting for one to pop up, seriously. Um, you know, make fun of me if you want to, but my children are ready for it. And yeah, so that's what I want to share. That's part of it. That is part of it. And then we've got people that are wanting to learn how to grow their own food, sew their own clothes, mix up their own cleaning solutions, make their own hygiene products, start teaching their children. Got somebody blowing their nose. Got some allergies going on because it's been hot, and then it's been cold, and then it's been hot, and then it's been cold. So anyway, and we've been homeschooling since 1995. Our children were homeschooled exclusively. And if your children are going to school and you help them with their homework and you are involved with them, you are homeschooling after school. So to me, anybody who cares about their children, spends time with their children, and is involved in their education is homeschooling. And you need to be intentional about that. So that's as much as I will. I could go on a homeschool mom rant, but I won't, okay? I'm not judging anybody according to where you're sending your children to school, but I encourage you to be involved. Okay, and all the teachers that I know out here, we've got some really great teachers out here, and all of them that I know out here want the parents to be more involved, so in a positive way. Minimalism out on the farm. I'll go ahead and unless I get somebody on here giving me some questions, I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of the stuff. So, minimalism sounds really great, and people are moving in, building these tiny homes, moving into these tiny homes. And I love watching the videos on YouTube, seeing the tiny home stuff. And I've got a friend that's in the tiny home movement, and I'm hoping she can come in the fall and talk to everybody because she's amazing, amazing. She went from like a 3,000 something square foot home to a, what is it, a 300 square foot uh, motor coach in 30 days or something like that. Yeah, Brenda Mason Palmery. I'm not saying that right. Small living, huge life. I think that's what it is. And creating your own home oasis. It's wonderful. She's got some great things that are very, very helpful. But when you're talking about a minimalist lifestyle and then you're thinking about moving out to the farm, you can't go with just a couple of pairs of yoga pants and some cute prairie dresses. Okay? So that's not what we're talking about with minimalism. I mean, not real life out on the farm. If you want to live minimalist like that and just only have a few things, then you probably need to stay pretty much where you're at or close to the cities. That way you can replace things whenever they need to be done. And you might not want to be in a situation where your clothes, you need heavy duty clothes out here. Okay. You know, in the morning you get dressed and you may have to help one of the animals have a baby. Or you may be tromping through mud if there's moisture to try to get one that got out of the fence or something. So then you come in and you change clothes. And then while you're cooking, something, happens in the kitchen that just happens because I'm a klutz. And yeah, I get messy. And then you may have to change your clothes again. And then, so only having a week's worth of clothes just doesn't work out here. And then you've got the seasons. And so you need your outdoor chores clothes, you need your Sunday best, and you need some lounge clothes, And because of the fires and the tornadoes and stuff, I have learned that pajamas need to be something that you can wear out of the house quickly in the middle of the night. So I basically sleep in sweats and a t-shirt. Okay, so there are ways that you can minimalize in that you can be more realistic with some things. The old-fashioned skills that, Little House on the Prairie was my favorite show growing up, and I loved watching them do those old-fashioned things, and they were pretty good in that show, showing some of the stuff that they, actually did in prairie times. Some of it was a little, dramatized, but it was still, growing up, we had 3 channels of snow out here, and so you could barely see what was happening, and I got Romper Room, Little House on the Prairie, and Freddy Fud. I think that was it. That's what I got to watch most of the time. Until we were a little bit older. And then it was Dukes of Hazzards, the Muppets. Yeah. So, if you watch the replay and you made it this far, let me know what your favorite show was when you were a child. Let's see if we all date ourselves. Now, my children, our children, we've never really had like cable or we had a really short spurt of satellite, but I think we had it for internet, not the TV part of it. As a matter of fact, I remember I had to pay extra to not get the TV programming. I didn't want it, and anyway, that was a whole thing. But we've bought DVD sets. So we have Roy Rogers and Wild Wild West and those old things. And I got, of course, Little House on the Prairie and, Green Gables and all those kinds of things. And now you can get some of that with an antenna again. MeTV is great with the antenna. Or Netflix has got some of that stuff now. Yeah. So anyway, all right, back to simple living. What else can you? Okay, so on YouTube, people have been looking up traditional cooking. Um, I love watching the Townsends from the colonial era. They're cooking with like homemade uh, mud brick ovens and over a fire in a fireplace and things like that. Ugh, that is a lot of fun. And then there's cowboy chuck wagon type stuff. And Kent Rollins, he's just a little south of us. He's got a pretty good deal. Him and the dogs and his wife, she's great. You're good, Shannon. You do a great job keeping up with him because I bet it's fun. Anyway, he's got some fun things you can cook out on the grill or whatever. And then some of the depression cooking. I mean, there's some little mature ladies on there that are giving depression cooking recipes on YouTube. That's awesome. But if you look on YouTube, there's thousands, if not millions, of views on this stuff. People love it. It's pretty amazing. I've been trying to tell the home extension ladies out here for a long time that young people want to learn how to cook basic things. I realize the older set likes throwing a cake mix and coming out with a 3-course meal. And that's fun and that's neat that you can cook 150,000 things with a cake mix. But the younger set is looking at the ingredients on that cake mix box and they're like, there's some things in here I really don't want to feed my family. How can I make the cake by scratch? And they want to learn basic things like, what do you do with the dried beans? How do you cook that and come out with beans and something flavorful that the family is going to enjoy eating, and rice and things like that. Just basic things that are going to be the least expensive things you can get at the grocery store. They're going to be packed with nutritional value, and it really is. It's so simple, whipping up a homemade batch of biscuits to me is just as easy as using Bisquick, because you still have to add ingredients to the Bisquick, okay? And then it tastes better. I mean, I like Bisquick, okay, but it tastes better homemade. There's something about it. So people are also learning about preserving foods, not just canning, which canning is something I've not learned a lot about. My grandmother didn't want me in the kitchen with her. So, and she didn't want me in her garden, which is probably why I have trouble with the green thumb thing. Us 80 kids were just kind of swept by the side for the most part. Not all of them. Some moms did and grandmas did their thing, but most of us were just kind of swept off to the side, and we were supposed to concentrate on school and our friends and stay out of the way. So there's more to preserving food than canning. I've made some sand plum jelly, which is the big thing out here, and that was fun. I did it once. Never seemed to get around to it again. I keep thinking I'm going to, but there's always someone that's making extra. So, but we have really gotten into the fermenting foods. So making our own sauerkraut. That's good. Homemade sauerkraut. I don't mind the canned sauerkraut. I don't mind it. But homemade sauerkraut, that's awesome. It's a completely different beast. And it is so good for you. And then we do kombucha. Actually, Paul's the one that does the kombucha. His kombucha is very strong. He does it in a very manly way, and he makes manly kombucha, okay? Just leave it at that. And I have some friends that do drying. Of course, you can blanch and freeze things and all that kind of stuff too. So, I mean, there's different ways to do it, and you don't have to do them all. You don't. You can start small. And, one of the new things that I'm learning, because we haven't had a whole lot of sheep out here. There's always been a few people that have had sheep, but we haven't had a whole lot of sheep. I didn't grow up with sheep. I grew up with pigs, mostly pigs and cows and things. But I've been learning how to spin wool with a drop spindle. Oh, that's fun. So if you look at these things on YouTube and if you look at how many views there are, look up how to do something. You can pick something that maybe you remember your grandmother or your great grandmother doing. My great grandmother braided rugs. So if you look up braided rugs on YouTube or learning how to braid rugs or DIY braided rug thing, you're going to come up with a lot of videos. Some of them aren't going to show you the way she did it, and I was smart enough to ask her and have her show me how to do it. And so I have the tools that I need and everything, and I could actually do that. So if you look up on YouTube DIY braided rugs, some of them are braided, some of them are actually crocheted. But you will find that a lot of people have looked that up and watched those videos. And then soap making, candle making, of course, woodworking, herbalism is something I've really gotten into myself. There's just, it's overwhelming, all of the stuff that is available. So, and you can get overwhelmed with it. And having somebody to kind of come along beside you and say, okay, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? Let's figure out where you're bent in this, where your interests are, what's going to work for your family. You know, if you've got allergies and stuff, then you're going to have to stay away from some things and maybe you need some other things. And to be able to point those out, sort out all the stuff and figure out what's going to be best for you to get started on this journey of living a more sustainable lifestyle and of maybe looking for that piece of land and thinking about purchasing it and deciding what kind of a home you want to live in, whether, we're in a 100-year-old farmhouse and dealing with the repairs and the maintenance and stuff that go with that, or if you want to build a sustainable home, which there's a lot of options there, or do a tiny house or a yurt or whatever. There are so many options. So sorting through that sometimes can just be overwhelming. And then you get in the middle of it and you're like, what have I done? And we're talking about some real culture shock sometimes. Let's see if we've got anything going on. Refresh. Just see if there's any questions that anybody has left anywhere while I'm doing this. And if you haven't had a chance to check out the prairiedusttrail.com virtual.html, and I'll try to remember to put that link down below. Where are we at? 3 people, 1 engagement. Yeah, there's just not been much. Who knows? Facebook probably show it all to everybody. As a matter of fact, I did share about the fire just a couple of posts before this. So if you go to February 16th's post on the Prairie Dust Facebook page, it's facebook.com/Prairie Dust Trails. If you're on here, you're probably seeing it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to download this video and move it other places. I probably should. I'll figure that out. Tech issues. Anyway, okay. I'm still not seeing any questions, notifications, because I posted this everywhere on God's great earth, at least in internet land. Okay. So, what we're going to go through in the retreat is how to prepare for any disaster. We kind of talked about that. how to simplify your lifestyle for better sustainability. We kind of talked about that. How to put your dreams into perspective in order to lay out actionable goals, and we've kind of touched on that too. If you have questions about any of this stuff, please do put them in the comments. Let me know what you're unsure about. I've run into a few people over the last few weeks who had not even heard the word homestead, uh, did not understand what it was at all, and it kind of took me back. I wasn't ready for that, so I started explaining, and they're like, "Oh, I want to learn about that." And it's like, okay, well, sometimes people need to know what it is that they're even interested in. I've have you ever had that happen? I mean, walk into, well, my big thing is walking into a quilt shop, and you're walking into the quilt shop and you're looking at all this stuff, and the people that have the store, that working at the store, they're over in the corner and they're doing a little project or something that they can show to people, working on the next class or whatever it is. And you go over there because I'm Snoopy, because I'm a journalist, and so I'm supposed to be Snoopy. So, excuse me, it's been so dry. Um, and you go look, and they say, "Oh, we're doing this and that and this and that with this and that and this and that." And I'm like, I didn't even know this and that and this and that even was a thing. And I didn't have, and then all of a sudden you realize this is something you've been waiting your whole life to know about, and you didn't even know it was a thing. I'm probably being over dramatic, but I know you've had that moment, right? I'm pretty sure you've had that moment. So, let's see, how to share the legacy of faith, strong relationships, and good work ethic with your children. Now, this is a faith based retreat. And when we have the summit and the summit conference, whatever, in the fall in Woodward, it's faith based. Not necessarily everybody there is going to be a faith based business, of course, or, and you do not have to be a, a faith based person in order to get good information from this. But my faith has helped me through these hard times, and I can't imagine trying to do, excuse me, what we do without the faith. So that is just a very important thing. And so if you are a faith-based person and you want to see this stuff from a biblical perspective, this is going to be great for you. If you're not sure where you are in your faith, this might be interesting information for you, if nothing else. Okay? So anyway, and sharing a legacy with your children, that's what I've been blessed with, is a legacy that my great great grandparents, two different sets, came out here and homesteaded, and just passing down that work ethic and some of those common sense things that maybe didn't really take hold of me for a while. you know, uh, that's those special things or legacies that I wanted to pass on to my children, and that now they want to pass on to theirs. So that's awesome to see our two oldest daughters already starting to teach and train their little ones in these things. It's just an amazing thing to see that legacy passed on. It's wonderful. How to evaluate the environment and culture you're homesteading for creating the life you want to live. So, evaluating, especially if you're looking forward to buying a homestead, moving away from where you are, you need to evaluate what the environment and the culture in that area has. So I promise you, out here in Northwest Oklahoma, our culture is very different from a lot of other places in the world. I try to tell people, consider us a like a foreign country out here in some ways. Consider us a foreign country. And this is a mission field. Uh, because our culture is different than Eastern Oklahoma, which is different than Southern Oklahoma, and which is different than Texas or Kansas or Nebraska or the Dakotas. Okay, it's all the Great Plains, but there's it just each area in this side of the panhandle compared to the other side of the panhandle also even has a different culture. So you just drive 3 hours and you're going to run into people who are are just different. They live differently. Their ecosystem that they're living in is different, and the way they do things is different. And you need to take that into effect if you want to become part of a community. And whenever we move into a place, that's what you need to be thinking, is becoming part of the community. And for those who are just trying to simplify things where they're at, uh, you know, I'm using a platform right now that's handy. It's a handy tool in some ways, but it's also kind of taken part of our community away from us. And we need, and I'm terrible about it myself because I'm kind of a hermit and I am a homebody and I don't like getting out and about too much. But we need to reestablish that close knit community. Out here used to be everybody knew everything about everyone. In the early 90s, we still had party lines out here. Okay? So if you've ever watched the Beverly Hillbillies and Granny missing the party line in Beverly Hills whenever they moved, well, nobody out here missed the party line. Okay? But it was kind of handy because you just pick up the phone, and if so and so is talking on the phone to so and so else, and you've got an emergency, and you can just tell them, "I've got an emergency," and your neighbors knew what was happening. So sometimes it was nice for the neighbors to know what was going on, and sometimes it wasn't. But with this thing, uh, people have become mean. They've become rude. They're not there for each other anymore. You don't see baby announcements in the newspapers. Uh, People aren't, well, I posted it on Facebook and they expect everybody to know what's going on. So sometimes, because we don't get the local paper, I'm sorry, we don't know that somebody local has passed away for years. Sometimes it'll be a couple of years later and we're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea, and so-and-so's got 3 children now, and oh wow, when that happened. We've lost touch with our community because everybody's on Facebook and they're posting their pictures and they're doing this and they're doing that, and that isn't necessarily building your community. So that's something to think about. Let's see. And then how to get out of or stay clear of bridled markets by trading your own goods and services. We have seen over the last few years how the markets are not helping agriculture at all. Some terrible, dreadful things have happened, not to mention supply shortages. I'm just not even going to go into all of the problems because I could be ranting all day, and I've been going for almost 45 minutes already talking to this screen and hoping somebody watches this eventually. The markets aren't helping us. We need to get out of the markets. Okay? We need to have high quality standards, yes. But then we need to be doing a lot more bartering our own goods and services. There are people locally in your area who want fresh, homegrown food. They want the quilts that you make. They want the soap that you're making. They want the honey you're getting. Whatever it is that you're doing, there are people who want that in your area. And there are people outside of your area who will pay to have it shipped, or they will drive. We found this. There are people who will drive 6 or 7 hours to come get what you've got. It will happen. It does. You let them know, you establish a community, and they will do it. You can get out of the markets, and you can do this. It's going to take some rethinking, some refinagling, and working things differently, but you can do it. It's like getting out of debt. It's worth it. It's very worth it. And so we want to talk about these. We're going to talk about these from a biblical perspective. It's March 4th and 5th. Again, you can register online. There is a cost because I'm going to be on my feet for 10 hours and there will be a swag bag. So, I mean, the cost for 10 hours of me being on my feet and trying to answer your questions and help you get started is, it's really, you can figure that up. So it's really not much. If you can't make it, there will be other things that will be offered. Probably not at the discount that this is happening. This is the first one. It's a pretty good deal. So if for some reason you cannot make it to this, let me know. Sign up for my newsletter so you can keep up with what we're doing. We're booking it to try to make the information available to as many people as are interested. This is a unique perspective because I'm not taking you into my kitchen to teach you how to cook. I'm not taking you out to the garden to teach you how to garden. You can find that all on YouTube. What you need to do is prioritize what you need so you can become intentional, consistent, and flexible and succeed so that you don't go into this with all the stumbling blocks. So that if you've got the stumbling blocks and you're overwhelmed with what it is you are trying to do already, so that we can take some of that load off, we can reprioritize and reorganize things and get you into a routine that is going to work for you. Okay? There's no one size fits all thing out there. You can buy all the planning stuff and everything, off of Etsy or whatever. And those are tools that can help. But until you get things the way you need them for your unique needs in your family, you're going to have a hard time with it. So, if these are things that you're interested in, please join us. I'm looking so forward to sharing all this and to getting your questions. Remember, if you've got questions, put them in the comments. Let me know if you're watching the replay. If you made it this far, leave me a cowboy hat emoji at the bottom or down there in the comments. Say replay with the cowboy hat emoji so that I know you made it, because you are special if you made it the whole 48 minutes that I have been on here blabbering. So I really appreciate you guys showing up, and even if it's later, if the platform doesn't show it to you for a week, I understand. It happens. So, and definitely check out the retreat. Send me your questions. I love hearing from you. I really do. So, love y'all. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you. In Jesus' name, amen.